Good morning, everyone. We're here at the Green Gallo in New York, and we're bringing you the Sony A7R IV deep dive. This video is going to be entirely shot on this body, but not only that, we're going to test out the new electronic microphone from Sony. There's a lot of technology going on in there, and we're going to get those questions answered as well. Thanks for watching. Make sure you stay till the end because we got some exciting things to show you. Now, before I get into the camera, I want to talk about the new condenser microphone that Sony announced. No, it doesn't have a memorable name, not by any means, but it is extremely impressive. What you're about to see is a few examples that I've recorded, just bear with me, but you're going to be able to see how well this works, especially in a noisy environment. Now, what you're hearing is the omnidirectional option, no noise cancellation. Let's go ahead and switch it to the unidirectional option. And what you should be hearing right now is just the unidirectional audio. The microphone is pointing toward me and getting audio of me. But they also have a super directional option. Let's go ahead and turn that on. With the super directional, it's cutting out a lot more noise from behind the camera and prioritizing me even more than the last option. Now, to illustrate this even further, I'm gonna turn the microphone around away from me and the crowd that was hiding behind me, behind the shrubbery, and point it to Patrick Chan from Sony, who's gonna talk a little bit more about this microphone.
So what's special about this ECM B1M is that it features an 8-capsule array. And what that does is it digitally gives you that directionality, so you get a much shorter, much more compact microphone that gives you that directional audio.
All right, that's enough about the microphone for now for this video. Let's talk about the A7R Mark IV. One of the special things about the Sony A7R Mark IV is that you're getting 15 stops of dynamic range in these 14-bit raw files. It's a lot of information. So in a setting like this, where you have some dark spots, some highlights, it's really a mixed lighting situation, you're gonna be able to capture an image and be able to resolve a lot of detail in post-production. So now that I've explained it, let me show you what it looks like in practice. First time ever in a Sony Alpha body, you can actually get real-time eye tracking in video. It is bananas. We're gonna see how it works with a live subject. We're gonna get them to move around and see how well the focus maintains. One thing you're gonna notice is I'm gonna be talking about this autofocus a lot throughout this video. But again, real-time eye tracking and really good, like amazingly good eye tracking in video, this is impressive. If it wasn't obvious already, the Sony A7R Mark IV has a ton to offer. And it's not one of those cameras that's just really good at one thing and okay at others. No, it does a lot of things really, really well. And in several areas, it's probably the best in the market, namely that autofocus. They've taken the system that you could find in the A9 and brought it to their new sensor, a 61 megapixel sensor. And that's something that we really gotta give credit for. We're talking about something that's approaching that medium format range and really bigger than some medium format offerings, but you're getting the latest in autofocus. And at this point in time, probably the best autofocus on the market. You're also getting something that can go up to 32,000 ISO and really give you dynamic images, 15 stops worth of dynamic range. I can't wait to spend more time with this camera. Well, my prayers were quickly answered because Sony had planned a full day of shooting at the Academy Mansion in New York, where we would be able to test out the A7R Mark IV even further. This was gonna be like a field trip for photographers. So this autofocus is incredibly impressive, especially for video. It just locks in on the subject and follows them. And I'm sure you guys may have heard about it before, but I'll say it again. Sony has the best autofocus on the market right now. It's hard to argue against it. It's one of those things that they're becoming known for in the industry. One of the features that I'm a big fan of on the new A7R Mark IV is the Viewfinder. This thing has over 5.7 million dots. And if I'm comparing this to some of the other viewfinders in the market, I'd much prefer using this. And yes, it does have a little bit more punch because it is a digital display, a high resolution digital display that you're looking through, but the level of accuracy that you get with respect to composition, with respect to fidelity, yeah, this thing is awesome. So there's been a lot of changes to the overall feel of this camera. When you look at the ergonomics, a deeper grip, just more pronounced for your fingers. You can wrap your entire hand around. A lot of professionals have been talking about this for Sony, and I'm glad they listened. But that's not the only thing. Because of that jog dial being moved above the camera right about here, at this moment in time, it has this sort of dampening feel to it, a dampened feel to it. It's not a bad thing. I actually prefer this, but talking to Sony, it seems like it might not be final. So we're gonna have to wait and see what the final product looks like, but I do appreciate their attention to detail when it comes to these things. Another feature, they have these buttons that are more pronounced, easier to press, and easier to get access to. One of the great things about the Sony A7R Mark IV is that they didn't skimp on the video features either. You can do 4K at up to 30 frames per second or slow motion 1080p at 120 frames per second. And now, while that might not be impressive for some people, you might be expecting more from a new Sony camera, keep in mind this is a product that's geared toward high resolution photography, something that's meant to capture 61 megapixel images, whether it's landscape or portraits or commercial work. But the fact that you can get these kind of video features as well, it makes something that's a lot more attractive for those that are looking for a new Sony body. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have some pictures that need to be taken right now. Yeah, I wasn't about to impress anyone there. It was time to go back upstairs and check out the other shooting environments. Amazing. I mean, take a look at this. I have a bouquet of roses in one hand. I have a 135-1.8 lens, which is not a light lens in the other hand. But when you take into account the autofocus, the tracking ability, the built-in image stabilization, you can actually get a really interesting shot. And while I talk about it, I'll get the image to pop up right here. But to get an image like this on other systems, it's either more difficult or a few more steps involved, or you get someone else to hold the roses. But to be like this, to be this nimble, to point it in the direction, and look, I'm looking at you guys, to reliably get the shot, it's just amazing. One of the advantages with a camera like this with 61 megapixels is that when you change the aspect ratio, for example, 16:9, you still get a 51 megapixel image. That's a lot of information to work with, especially if you're looking to print them and really blow them up and get these interesting crops to work with. Throughout the day, I managed to capture a little over 1,700 images, and with the video, about 270 gigs of content. And that's gonna bring up a reminder for anyone watching this video. You're dealing with large file sizes. So with a camera like this, it's not the body that you're gonna be investing in, let alone the lenses. You're gonna be investing in storage, in faster memory cards, because when you're shooting with something like this, at the camera side, you want those fast cards to buffer your images really quickly so you can take advantage of those high frame rates, 10 frames per second. But also when you're downloading those images, well, you're gonna need storage to hold them, but also that fast card is gonna be really handy to offload the images even faster. So there you have it. That's our deep dive of the new Sony A7R Mark IV. This is just an impressive piece of kit. After using it for this amount of time, really those wedding photographers that work maybe higher end or maybe as a second body, especially if you're a portrait photographer, if you're a landscape photographer, for people that are going to be blowing up their prints and want just the utmost amount of detail, this is an extremely versatile solution. And when you compare it against the market, if you're looking at cameras that are 50 megapixels or higher, I mean, this is really competitive, especially for all the features that you get, namely that autofocus. If you leave this video with anything, just imagine the quality of your images when you have an autofocus that tracks as accurate as this one does. As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you know when a new video comes out. But more importantly, let me know what you think about this camera. Who do you think it's for? Thanks again. My name's Gajan, and I'll see you next time.